We bowl off Mello TV Sports with cricket as the scheduled tour of the West Indies by South Africa later this year is facing an uncertainty. Cricket South Africa will face intervention from the country's sports minister, Nathai Mathwedwa, after failing to agree on a memorandum of incorporation that will set out the blueprint for a majority independent board. Mathwedwa will use the National Sports and Recreational Act to step in, which gives him the right to, amongst other things, withdraw funding and no longer officially recognize CSA as the governing body of cricket. Now that means that Cricket South Africa would no longer legally be able to run cricket in the country, and the national men's, women's and age group teams will not be allowed to wear the Pro T badge or claim to represent South Africa in international competition. In real terms, it could impact South Africa's schedule, which is currently scant, but should next see a men's tour to the West Indies next month in June. Now, Mathwedwa's next move may also cause complications at the International Cricket Council if his actions are viewed as government intervention. Bangladesh added 172 in the 65 overs possible to close on 474 for 4 on today's second day of the first test against Sri Lanka in Kandy. Bad light ate away the last 90-odd minutes of play, but not before Najmul Hussain Shanto moved his maiden test century from an overnight 126 to 163 and Mominul Haq his 64 to a first overseas 100 of 127. They added 242 runs, which is a record for Bangladesh's third wicket. Mushifur Rahim 43 and Linton Das 25 were at the crease at the end. Vishwa Fernando has 2 of the wickets to fall, with 1 each going to Lahiru Kumara and Dhananjaya De Silva. The Jamaica International Invitational Meet will for a 4th year running be absent from the local track and field calendar. Organizers say that due to logistical reasons, they will not be staging the event this year, which makes it 4 years since the last event. It becomes another casualty of the COVID-19 pandemic, with quarantine requirements and frequent changes in safety rules, making it difficult to plan, especially for foreign-based athletes. The organizers were looking at a May 8 date at the National Stadium for the World Athletics Continental World Series event. The Olympic torch relay has recorded its first positive test for COVID-19. Tokyo Olympic organizers say that a policeman tested positive for the virus a day after his assignment last week at the Olympic torch relay. It is the first positive test connected to the relay since it began on March 25 from northeastern Fukushima Prefecture. The report comes as Japan is preparing to declare a 3rd state of emergency in western metropolitan areas around Osaka and in Tokyo. It is expected tomorrow and is being reinstated after current measures failed to slow down the latest resurgence fueled by a new, more contagious variant of the virus detected earlier in Britain. The organizers said all participants and officials are taking the best precautions and that the case will not affect the subsequent legs of the torch event. The torch relay involved 10,000 runners crisscrossing Japan for 4 months, ending at the arrival at the National Stadium on July 23 to kick off the scheduled opening ceremony. Meanwhile, taking a knee is set to be outlawed at this year's Olympics after the International Olympic Committee approved a recommendation from its own Athletes Commission to curtail the rights to protest on the field of play. 2/3 of respondents to a survey relating to a potential change of the IOC's Rule 50, which bans demonstrations of political, religious, or racial propaganda on Olympic sites, said they did not feel such protests were appropriate. The IOC has not said what consequences athletes may face for protesting, but a proportionate range of punishments will be drafted before the Games. The IOC said approved words on t-shirts and elsewhere in Japan or Tokyo are peace, respect, solidarity, inclusion, and equality. And finally, in the sports news tonight, Julius Randle scored 13 of his 40 points in the final 11 minutes, including overtime, for the hosts New York Knicks, who remain red hot by storming back from an 11-point deficit to beat the Atlanta Hawks 137 to 127. The Knicks scored the first 10 points of overtime to survive a battle of attrition, locked up their 8th straight win, the franchise's longest winning streak since March 2014, and moved past the Hawks into 4th place in the Eastern Conference. New York hasn't made the playoffs since the 2012 to 2013 season. Elsewhere on the night, the streaking Washington Wizards harassed Stephen Curry into a 7 of 25 shooting while getting 29 points from Bradley Beal and a triple-double from Russell Westbrook in a 118-114 victory over the visiting the Golden State Warriors. Now, Curry was outscored by 11 points on this night by Beal, who did much of his damage at the foul line, 11 for 11. He shot just 8 of 21 from the floor. Westbrook finished with 14 points, a game-high 20 rebounds and 10 assists though he turned the ball over 9 times. The Wizards earned their season-high 6th consecutive win while handing the Warriors just their 2nd loss in the past 7 games. Also winning last night were Cleveland, Indiana, Phoenix Suns, Toronto, Utah, the Dallas Mavericks, the Miami Heat, the Los Angeles Clippers, Denver, and Sacramento. And those are the stories making sports news tonight. We now head back to the news desk with Shelley and Hill.